when do you think brands should expand into retailers? And how do you think we as marketing agencies should be approaching tracking an omni-channel brand as well?
Gotcha. Let's start one by one. The reason why D2C, pure D2C play no longer works is, like you said, because of economics. And part of the problem is the perspective on what D2C is. D2C is a great channel for testing, iterative testing. You can quickly test product launches, content ideas, get feedback, and then improve your processes, improve your systems almost instantaneously in real time, right? And then focus on creating value that way, because it's a constant loop, feedback loop that you fuel with new launches, new strategies, new tests. Most brands do not do that. And that's why they're not as profitable as they desire to be. It's a data play these days. And I highly recommend that whoever's watching this follow John Ivanko on LinkedIn. He's big in e-commerce. He talks a lot about zero-party data, and that's FormToro. They built a tool for data collection. And I always advocate for John, incredible resource. And I also recommend following Chris Daly, who comes from very extensive retail background in database marketing. So a combination of qualitative and quantitative research into your customer is what D2C is about, right? You can collect data directly from your customers and then use that data to craft better strategy for acquisition, for retention, launch new products, and then build this, machine that works seamlessly and smoothly with all that research, with all that data. As soon as you make that switch in your head, you will see the true power of D2C in comparison to retail, wholesale, and marketplaces, where you don't get access to data direct to consumer, right? That's the whole purpose of D2C, to get your hands direct to consumer, to get your hands on their data, right? Access direct to consumer. What do I think about omnichannel? I think it's a given to be an omnichannel brand, to have omnichannel presence. And it's no longer online versus offline. You have to build this bridge between online and offline. And like I said, if you approach D2C as a channel where you learn about your customer, about their needs, about their demand, and then you create supply accordingly, and then you apply the same framework of thinking to your wholesale and retail channels, you can build a very successful business that is profitable across all those channels. And that's why when it comes to attribution, it doesn't really matter where the customer comes from, because your goal is to be top of mind of your customers. And to be top of mind of your customers, you have to understand what their pain points are, what their needs are. If you don't understand what those pain points are, you will never be top of mind. And it doesn't matter what channel they come from, because it can be an impulsive purchase that came through Facebook, and then you think, oh, Facebook is a great channel for us to advertise, but you don't really understand your customer. You start to put more resources into Facebook. You scale to a certain point where it becomes unprofitable, and that's where you realize that Facebook was not that great in the first place. But that's a flawed way of thinking. It's you didn't start with data, you didn't start with the customer. That's how you ended up in that space. So taking a very data-driven, customer-first approach with the help of quantitative and qualitative analyses on the database marketing side and zero-party data side will help you take maximum value out of D2C and build a more successful presence on wholesale, retail, and marketplaces.
How do you approach attribution now? Do you find attribution at all important? Do you think there's a time and place for it? Or are you more so indexing towards analytics, financial-based numbers? For example, are you looking at contribution margin and indexing further towards that, and MER, and more importantly, acquisition MER as well, over just return on ad spend in these platforms?
Sure. My thinking about attribution is what John Ivanko says, and I always quote him because it's very well said. You don't have to make up anything new, but attribution is a company journey rather than customer journey, right? What you're trying to figure out is, where do we get the highest ROI on our investment, and it's a company journey, you don't really think about the customer. You just think about the highest ROI, right? Which is very flawed way of thinking. And attribution has led a lot of businesses down the wrong path. When you dive into attribution, you just end up wasting a ton of time, right? You will never get perfect attribution, never, right? No matter how much you try. And again, with all these policies and private data protection regulations, it's going to be tougher and tougher to collect accurate data and know exactly what the customer journey looks like and how you should be attributing your spend and your marketing resources. So I would say that do not obsess with attribution because you're not doing enough on the customer journey and data collection side. Focus your time there before you dive into attribution or try to understand what attribution is about. Because again, it's like understanding where the bottleneck is. If you're, let's say, even if you were to attribute with 90% accuracy, but you're doing zero on the customer research and data collection side, you're trying to push from 90% to 95% attribution accuracy, but you're doing nothing with the 0% on the customer research side. So it's understanding what the bottleneck and business constraint is, right? And what you should be doing to fix that first before you focus your limited resources in the areas that are not really lacking. So I would say start with customer research first and foremost before you start obsessing with attribution, which is not perfect and will never be perfect. And the second part of the question, what did you ask about? Kind of forgot.
I forgot as well. I was going to follow up just then on where would an early stage e-com brand owner even start when it comes to data collection and customer research?
Yeah, so it's very simple, to be honest. And a lot of tests have been run by a bunch of partners in the e-commerce space, like No Limit Marketing guys are doing a lot of zero-party data now with Josh Tay and Michael Gavin. So check out their content. They post a lot about the effectiveness of data collection at pre-purchase level. So the idea is that when you give a coupon or sign up discount to your first-time visitors or website visitors, first-time customers, we typically just collect the email, but instead of collecting the email only, ask them 5 relevant customer-oriented questions that will help you understand what the customer is about. And we've seen a slight decline in the fill-out rate, right? If you're landing like, let's say 10% subscription rate, right? So whoever lands on your website, 1/10 of that people will sign up for a discount. We've seen just a slight decrease in that percentage, but you get way more value out of it because now you've got their data, you know exactly what their pain points are, how you should personalize their journey and experience with your brand, and you can use that over time and perfect it and reduce. That's how you reduce customer acquisition cost, essentially, because you use the data that you collect from current customers that you've already paid for, and then you improve everything in your business to make sure that it costs you way less in the future. So it's an investment, right? You invest now, but then in the future it becomes cheaper for you to acquire customers than it would have if you didn't do that.